Okay, so Beyoncé is facing backlash from a loud corner of delusional leftists because she wore a shirt honoring the Buffalo Soldiers. For those who may not know, the Buffalo Soldiers were black men who served in the U.S. military after the Civil War. And the weird claim they're making, they're saying that these men were colonizers. That's right, colonizers. But let's be for real. That take is not just disrespectful, it's also historically illiterate. The Buffalo Soldiers were not colonizers. They were survivors. These were black Americans who joined the military not to oppress anyone, but to build better lives for their families during a time where they had very few options. They fought because it was one of the only ways to earn respect, land, or a future, and they just so happened to be on the winning side of history. That's not nothing to be ashamed of. That's something we all should study and understand. But the left has turned the word colonizer into a one-size-fits-all insult, and now they're throwing it at black veterans. Even at Beyoncé, their leader, their god. All for what? For acknowledging a complicated history with pride? What Beyoncé is doing, whether it's intentionally or not, is bringing black American pride back into the spotlight. When Cowboy Carter dropped, it reminded folks of our Southern roots, our traditions, our culture. You got black folks in the South learning how to line dance again. We're celebrating something distinctly ours, and for some reason, some people can't handle that. Why is there a war on black American pride? And here's another issue I have. Black leftists, or POC, whatever y'all want to call yourself, y'all love to call out racism until it's coming from your own side, from y'all so-called POC or LGBT allies. These leftists go silent when disrespect is aimed at our elders, our stories, and our sacrifices just to keep good standing with the movement that has done nothing for us. In fact, these movements they're disrespecting our elders for is a movement that's literally erasing us in real time. Calling the Buffalo Soldiers colonizers just to fit your political narrative is literally low IQ. That's not activism. That's a masterclass in revisionist brainwashing. You can be critical of the American empire without spitting on the people who helped build this country. People who looked like you. Now, no disrespect will be tolerated towards black Americans and the real contributions we've made to help shape this country. We are not footnotes. We are not villains in somebody else's story. We are the story. This is the Misinformation Show. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's do a quick history check. Who were the Buffalo Soldiers? Now, let's clear the air and get into some actual history because there are way too many people out here speaking with zero context. The Buffalo Soldiers were black men who served in segregated units of the U.S. Army starting right after the Civil War in 1866. The U.S. government created 6 all-black regiments that were eventually consolidated into the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry. These men were some of the first African Americans to serve in the peacetime military, not as slaves, not as laborers, but as enlisted soldiers. Why did so many formerly enslaved black men join the military, you're probably asking? Because what were the other options? What else were they supposed to do? This was right after slavery ended. There was no generational wealth. There was no land. There was no job security. And racism still ran deep in the heavy South. So during this time, the military offered regular pay. They offered housing, clothing, and a shot at respect and upward mobility. For many, it was the only way they could provide for a family. This is the only way they could stay safe. This is the only way they could escape sharecropping and poverty. This is not the mindset of a so-called colonizer. This was about survival and strategy. You are talking about people who have been legally owned just a few years earlier. So how can you call these people your definition of a colonizer? These people chose to wear that uniform with pride, and that itself was a radical act. Why should Black Americans be ashamed of our ancestors, our elders who decided to fight for this country, do what they can to make a way for themselves after slavery, even if that meant joining the military and fighting for people who only saw them as like what, three-fifths human at the time? Why should I not take pride in that? That's actually strong. That's resilient. That's a real symbol of strength. You will never convince me that the Buffalo Soldiers were colonizers. So, what did the Buffalo Soldiers do? The Buffalo Soldiers were assigned some of the most hardest, most dangerous, and thankless tasks. They protected settlers and railroads during westward expansion. They built roads, infrastructure, and forts in the western frontier. They fought in the Indian Wars, the Spanish-American War, and later World War I and World War II. They also helped guard the Mexican border. Why should I be ashamed of how resilient my ancestors were? Make that make sense. They also helped fight wildfires and national parks. These are strong men. It was literally just enslaved and still decided, well, I had to find something to do with myself now. They literally picked themselves up by their bootstraps and joined the military. And during these times, they often had worse equipment, longer assignments, and were stationed in remote, harsh environments. And yet, they had one of the lowest desertion rates in the entire U.S. Army. Again, why is this something I should be ashamed of? Why? Okay, yes, their work intersected with American expansion, but let's not act like they were like the architects of anything. These men didn't draw the maps. They weren't signing treaties or breaking treaties. These men were doing what people have always done in this country, making something out of nothing and carving out opportunity. So again, I'm gonna ask, why should I be ashamed of my history as a Black American? Why are Black Americans the only people y'all want to separate our history and separate from our history and our contributions in this country? You can hate America all you want, but we have Black Americans like myself. We have contributed so much to this country. We have ancestors who fought and died for the building, for the expansion of America. The legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers matter because those early regiments paved the way for men in the military today. They paved the way for future Black military service. They paved the way for Black officers and generals. They paved the way for desegregation under Truman. The recognition of Black patriotism and valor, even when this country didn't even recognize them as full citizens. They paved the way for a lot of y'all who are in the military today, regardless of whether you join to make a better life for yourself. You are following the footsteps of the Buffalo Soldiers. So why should I be ashamed of my history and my ancestors, okay? Now, with that being said, let's get into the double standards, okay? The double standards from these libtards on the left. Let's talk about what really gets under my skin, okay? The hypocrisy coming from some of the corners of the so-called Black left. Let's get into it, because y'all love revolutionaries who fight for their own people unless they're American. Now, you're degrading your own history, your own contributions to this land. Liberals will literally praise people like Che Guevara, Maoist movements, or Hamas in some circles, yet they will turn around and call Black American veterans colonizers for being soldiers. Be consistent with your logic. You're not making sense. There's this selective outrage that's downright frustrating from the left. You'll see these same folks ready to jump on everybody, especially white conservatives who disrespect Black history and culture. But when the disrespect comes from their own side, from other POC groups, or other so-called queer allies, suddenly it's crickets. It's crickets. Why? Because this weird alliance they have in their head with these people who are fighting to erase them, whether knowingly or unknowingly, it doesn't fit their political narrative. So they're quiet. Where is the loud condemnation when Black elders or traditional Black values get thrown under the bus in the name of your woke politics? Huh? Where is it? Y'all lie about everything else except this. Where's the accountability when Black history gets twisted or erased to fit a libtard progressive agenda? Like, it's like some people are more committed to political alliances than protecting Black American dignity. How dumb are you? They'll stand shoulder to shoulder with movements that actually harm or erase Black Americans, but won't stand up when those movements disrespect our history or our people. Make it make sense. And the whole irony of the situation? The so-called progressiveness ends up sidelining people like you. Ends up sidelining Black Americans, the very same people they claim to uplift. These stories get rewritten and Black voices get muffled in the name of identity politics. For example, let's talk about Ben Carson, a Black Republican who became famous for performing the first successful separation of conjoined twins at the head in 1987. Now, mind you, this was a groundbreaking, complex surgery that brought him international attention. And ask yourself this, how many liberal classrooms do you think talk about Ben Carson during Black History Month? How many classrooms do you think talk about Ben Carson at all? All this liberal education system we have, they literally ignore or discard Black history-making people, Black people who made history in this country, rather, just because it doesn't fit their political narrative. So let's talk about the truth. The erasure of Black American history isn't coming from outside the community. It's coming from the libtards in the community. It's happening inside these progressive spaces where Black pride and Black history become inconvenient when it doesn't fit their narrative. So, when calling the Buffalo Soldiers colonizers is accepted, but honoring them is problematic, that's erasure. That's disrespect. You ignoring Black American history just because it doesn't fit your political narrative, that's disrespect. We deserve better. We deserve loyalty from our own first, and that means calling out double standards even when it's uncomfortable. So, you're probably wondering what made me talk about this today, but let me show you the tweets. The first tweet I saw that started this whole discourse about the Buffalo Soldiers being colonizers, from what it looked like, I think the person wasn't a Black person. I'm not even sure if they're in America, but let's talk about it. Okay, so this is the tweet right here. This person said, "B is one of my all-time fave artists. I'm so upset. Why is she glorifying the genocide of indigenous Americans? Like the Buffalo Soldiers were used to ethnically cleanse indigenous people from Turtle Island." Now, mind you, these are the same leftists who will argue all day about how Black people are oppressed in this country and Black people face all these adversities in this country and all that stuff like that. But then now y'all calling the Buffalo Soldiers colonizers? How does that even make sense? How can you simultaneously say Black people are oppressed and all this in this country, but calling the Buffalo Soldiers colonizers? You know damn well these men were doing whatever they had to do to provide for their family, to move up in mobility. You know what I'm saying? So how does that logic even make sense? And even if you want to believe they're colonizers, a lot of y'all came to America because these colonizers fought for rights that you came here to benefit off. You came here to enjoy these rights. Y'all should be thanking the Buffalo Soldiers. So here's what this other person said. I saw with the Jamaican flag in their bio, of course. This person said, "It should have been needless to say, but the whole idea of a Black celebrity pushing reclamation of American identity and Americana aesthetic is pushing Black assimilation into empire. You want to be seen as a part of empire and different from it at the same time? Choose." What? How does that make sense? And then Yvette Carnell replied and said, "Y'all are as stupid as I always imagined. Nobody's reclaiming empire. We are American, and thus American history is our history." Absolutely correct. We're not reclaiming anything. We've been here. This is our history. This is our land. We helped build America. Nobody's reclaiming anything. I get I get y'all a little upset that Black Americans are now distancing ourselves from these other ethnic Black groups who come to America and want to be called Black American too. But no, we are different ethnic groups that we're putting that to an end right now. Okay, so for you to sit here and say we're separate, we're not separate. We're done with that. We are a part of American history. She went on to say, it's amazing how every other group can claim their history and nobody views them as assimilating into whatever corrupt or dictatorial government they exist under. And it's not our job, and it's not your job to police our identity. Nobody asks you. Go figure out why Jamaicans don't have control over their own beaches. Go Seaside and mew and yelp over colonialism. That's another thing I don't understand. Other ethnically Black groups migrating to America just to come in and talk shit about Americans and how we don't own this and we don't do that. Nigga, y'all, sorry, excuse my language, y'all don't own or control shit in y'all own homelands. Okay? So what are y'all really getting to with that argument? Y'all fled because y'all can't get shit under control. So don't come and talk about, oh, Black Americans are this, Black Americans are that. We have accomplished a lot here. Y'all, again, let me remind y'all are coming here to benefit off of rights of our ancestors fought for. Okay, all the benefits our ancestors fought for. So for y'all to come here and try to trash talk Black Americans and try to get us not to claim and acknowledge our contributions, it's kind of weird. People got so mad about this whole discourse, they started calling Black Americans displaced Africans. Do y'all call Jamaicans and Haitians displaced Africans? They only do this to Black Americans. Why is that? Can somebody explain why Black Americans are the only ethnic Black group who can acknowledge our history and appreciate our culture and appreciate our heritage and everything we did to make America great? Why can't we do that? I know why. It's because if we start doing that, other Black groups can come here and say, yeah, we're Black, we did this. People will come here and say, just because we share the same skin color, and they don't try to take credit for everything Black Americans did. No, like, we're not doing that no more. Okay, so they started calling us displaced Africans, which I think is weird and disrespectful. Our home is America. Okay, we are not Africans, and you can try that. Oh yeah, some of us. We have African DNA, but that does not make us African. We are not Africans. We are Americans. We are Black Americans. Get over it. And this is one more tweet I saw that I really loved from Lucy Bibb. She said, I am a proud descendant of Buffalo soldiers. The white settlers followed behind our ancestors, which is true, USCT regiments to settle the West without having to fight Indians because the Buffalo soldiers helped pave the way. Okay? We are proud of that. That is nothing to be ashamed of. The Homestead Act wouldn't have been possible without the Buffalo soldiers. Come on now. We're not ashamed of our history. We are American. It's like, I'm sorry. If you get mad at me being a melanated person calling myself American, kick rocks. I don't give a fuck. Too bad. Too sad. Now, let's talk about the Beyoncé effect. You know, because Beyoncé, she really started a trend, and she really brought all this country stuff out. People in the South, we're taking pride in our heritage. We're bringing our authentic culture back, and I love it. Beyoncé isn't just making music; she's literally leading a movement. When Cowboy Carter dropped, it was like a call back to roots that many Black Americans have been hungry for without even realizing it. We're talking about a revival of Black Southern culture, the line dancing, the cowboy boots, the country swag, the cowboy hats. What we're witnessing isn't some copy and paste of mainstream country culture. It's Black country, rooted in generations of history and pride. Okay? What Beyoncé is doing right now is restoring that culture to its rightful place in the spotlight. Black culture isn't some monolithic thing that is one-dimensional. Everything's not about, even though I don't mind, I don't twerk, everything's not about twerking, okay? Everything's not about rap. Black people in the South, we have a very expansive culture. It's complex, it's diverse, and is deeply tied to this land and history. Beyonce's work is a form of cultural restoration, bringing back pride, respect, and visibility to traditions that have often been ignored and minimized. Okay? This is a powerful reminder that Black identity is multifaceted and that embracing our full history is a revolutionary act, especially in 2025 where being a proud Black American is taboo. Okay? That Buffalo Soldier shirt Beyoncé wore, that wasn't just a fashion choice. It was a deliberate homage to Black patriots who fought and sacrificed, and a reminder that Black American history is American history. Okay? Let me say this loud and clear. We helped build this shit. We helped from the ground up. Our ancestors were the backbone of this country through slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and every damn obstacle thrown in my way. We proved our resilience, okay? And maybe if we start back taking pride in this resilience and recognizing our culture and what we did to help make America great, maybe Black culture will improve a little bit. I don't know. Maybe if we start recognizing like when we get more in touch with our roots and what we did and how our ancestors overcame all of this, I don't know. I feel like we might improve in some way. That might change our paradigm. But of course, okay, America has its flaws. Not going to deny that. They have huge ones. But loving this country while demanding it to do better isn't a contradiction. That's a right. It's a duty, okay? We earn the right to celebrate our history, our culture, and our contributions without apology or second guessing. Okay? That means showing respect to Black elders and our ancestors who sacrificed everything and the veterans who served even when this country failed them. Okay? So it's time to set some boundaries. We're going to set some boundaries. No more disrespect. No more rewriting our history to fit someone else's agenda. No more calling our heroes colonizers or villains just because it fits a political narrative and your low IQ. Okay? We will not be erased. I'm saying it again. Black Americans will not be erased. We will not be silenced. We will demand the respect that's long overdue. You guys, if you're tired of seeing Black American history twisted, if you're ready to claim your space and stand tall in your truth, this is the moment. This is your moment. Speak up when you hear disrespect. Protect our stories like your life depends on it. Because it does. It does, okay? Celebrate our culture every single day. Put those boots in the ground. The cowboy hats, those cowboy boots. That's just don't belong to white people. We got Black people in the South too who've been there longer than most white people, okay? Don't wait for permission or approval. Be proud, be loud, and be relentless, okay? So, if this episode of the Misinformation Show moved you, don't keep this to yourself. Share it with your family, your friends, or your community. Let's build a movement that won't let our history be erased or disrespected. Got it? Okay? Now, thank you guys for watching the Misinformation Show. Keep pushing, keep thriving, and never, ever, 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 ever forget. We helped build this country, and we're not going nowhere. Okay? Now, until next time, stay fearless, stay fierce, and stay informed. Thank you for watching the Misinformation Show. You guys, have a good day.